What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
I'm Tom, the OG Fit Kid, the staple of the Turnbuckle Debate.
And our returning guest, our great friends, Jordan and Seth. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up? Happy to be back.
Happy to be back for my third time on the debate. I'm really excited to do this again, and you got the Pod Warriors tonight, baby.
Yeah. Jordan, I think this is Jordan's, like, he's the only one that's went back-to-back.
Yeah.
He did back-to-back appearances.
Yeah.
Pod Warriors, I just listened to your guys' episode. You guys, Chick Foley, for anyone that doesn't know, but you guys have an offshoot show, Pod Warriors. You guys went in hard on the city of Knoxville this week. I loved it. Tell us about Pod Warriors, guys.
So me and Jordan have been best friends for going on 11 years now, man. And we just would constantly find ourselves having these like 45-minute long phone conversations and stuff talking about wrestling. And we were like, dude, we already got a podcast feed. We at least got a built-in following. We know at least the first episode we're gonna get a lot of listeners. Maybe it'll fall off a cliff after that. But let's just roll something out there and see how it does. And luckily, the positive feedback's been kind of beyond what we were even expecting, man. So thanks for everybody that's been listening and digging it. Just a slightly different feed, again, going for a little bit more evergreen type topics, but we'll mix in some current stuff as well on the feed. But yeah, it's just me and Jordan kind of just vibing.
That's awesome, man.
Couldn't say it better.
Very fun, fast listen too. It's so
Yeah, and I like it because it's kind of like wide open. Like you guys can really go wherever you want to go, and that's kind of the fun of like each week. I just look forward to hearing what you guys are going to tackle. And when I saw that you guys were breaking down your NWA Always Ready weekend, I was like, okay, this is gonna be fun.
My mom actually texted me today and said that she was laughing out loud in the car. I listened to the story of us like finding our seats, and like Jordan said, there was only he saw a sliver of brown fabric for us both to share.
That was the highlight of the episode because anyone who's ever been to a wrestling show knows that feeling. Like I was relating so hard to that.
Yeah, I had a good photo towards the end of the night when that fatal four in the main event was wrapping up. The dude that was kind of had half his ass cheeks in my seat was standing up, and I had a picture of him from across the arena. I was gonna use that as a cover art, but I was like, I don't want to. This guy, he knows who he is. If he is a listener, he knows who he is. So I didn't feel the need to any more publicly shame him.
That's great.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think we should get right to it. We got 3 topics to debate. Are you guys ready to do it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. All right, first topic of the evening. Does a pro wrestler need a title to become a transcendent star?
Okay, so before we start this, just a couple questions. When we're talking transcendent star, we're talking about the Rocks, the Stone Colds, the Hogans, we're talking about the big names, right?
Yep.
And now when you say, do they need a title? Are we talking like, do they currently need to be holding a title or just a title has to come into play in their run to make them a star?
I think have a title in the run.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say no, because first person that comes to mind is Roddy Piper, and They Live, and everybody knew Piper, but also Jesse Ventura never held the title. He was mostly a commentator, and he was in a whole bunch of those Schwarzenegger movies back then.
Here's my pushback on Piper, though. Piper never held the world title, but he was involved in the world title scene a lot.
Yeah,
you know
he may
what I
have been
mean?
at the first Mania.
Yeah, like he was tied up in that Hogan main event title scene. So to me, like he was in that running. You know what I mean? And he did hold the Intercontinental title, but
That was after he became a star, the Intercontinental one.
I believe
That's
he
true.
wasn't he U.S. champion in NWA and stuff though back in the day as well, feuding with Greg.
Georgia, yeah, I think so.
To me, as far as like when you talk about being a transcendent star, like crossing over to the mainstream, I don't think titles make a difference. Somebody like The Rock, I think he'd still be a huge movie star right now, regardless if he'd been a world champ or not. I think it's just being champ's just going to kind of increase your visibility and increase kind of the steam that the company's putting behind you to get your name out there. But that back in the day, definitely not. Like I would say pre-Attitude Era, I would say hard no. Like you definitely didn't have to have a title to kind of break through and become a gigantic star. Nowadays, though, there's so many freaking belts out there across all the promotions that if you see somebody who's been around for a year, 2, 3, and they haven't won any kind of belt yet, you got to start to think like, what's wrong with this guy? You know, it starts to become a thing.
Yeah, I think like I guess with me, like I think you do need at least to be. I think you as a wrestler are somehow tied up in a world title if you become that larger than life pantheon of greats pro wrestler. Like at some point you've either been in and that's not necessarily saying you have to be the champ, but I think like you've been tied up in world championship feuds. Somehow, some way you've been attached to a title. I think The Rock, as charismatic as he is, I think he would have probably gotten to that point without a world title, but he was tied up in title picture. Intercontinental, world title, he had all these runs. Would he have became as popular in the WWE without holding that belt? You know, without coming down and having those Intercontinental feuds with Austin, those world title feuds with Austin, you know, the stuff with Triple H. I think like even Undertaker's a prime example. Like he got to his later portion of his career, dude didn't have to even sniff a world title. He was a phenom. He became bigger than a belt. He didn't need it. It became like the Mania streak was essentially the thing that got him really, really big. But I don't know if he gets to that point where the streak matters if he didn't have those world title runs early in his career. Wasn't he one of the first guys to kind of like really dethrone Hogan?
Yep. He beat Hogan basically 1 year from his debut. So, you know, he debuted Survivor Series 90, Survivor Series 91. He beat Hulk for the belt, which was really unheard of. Pinned him 1, 2, 3.
So I'm going to say no, you don't have to have a title to become a transcendent star. But I think there's a caveat to it. I definitely think the character is what makes the wrestler more than anything, not the title. Bray Wyatt's a perfect example to me. Before he got the title, I will argue till the death that he was bigger than he ever was when he got the title. When he was the leader of the Wyatts walking into WrestleMania 30, I don't care, dude. There was no bigger dude in the company to me. There was people that were more excited for that match than any other match on that card. So Bray is a perfect example, but I think certain people have to have it to become a star. Seth's exactly right. I think The Rock still would have been perfectly fine, even never winning a title. But I mean, there is definitely certain people that would they have become as big without it? Probably not. Undertaker is a perfect example. I think you're exactly right on that. But I've always been more attracted to the character. The belt just adds to it, but if you got a good enough character, everybody's going to support you. So,
and I think, like to your point, Jordan, I think the title with Bray almost like hurt him a little bit.
Oh, 100%.
You know,
I agree.
I agree.
Not so much that it hurt, like he was the cause of that, but I feel like the booking once he got that title started going downhill with him.
Well, I mean, he only held it for 2 months, so there really wasn't much booking behind it.
They needed to, the thing with Bray, man, it's just there was no kayfabe reason. I mean, if you really want to think about it, there was no reason why a dude like him would even be in the WWE, but there was really no reason why he would care about the championship. So characters like that, they need to kind of exist off in their own lane. When you start having to mix in with, you know, the Seth Rollins and the Daniel Bryans of the world, it just kills their whole kind of vibe.
What do you think, Steve?
I don't think you have to have it. I don't think you have to have it, but you have to be pretty damn charismatic and you have to be pretty damn good to be a transcendent star without being in those world title pictures. I think having the title will make a lot more Transcendent stars than not having a title. I mean, obviously, if you have it, I don't think The Rock would have hurt for it, obviously, but there's certain people, like, I don't think Roman Reigns would ever be a Transcendent star without having that title. So,
hey, one thing we're not going to do tonight is have any hate on Roman Reigns. So let's just
bring on the Roman hate.
Hey, unless we're going long tonight, boys. If we're going to open up the Roman Reigns can of worms, feedback. We'll be here all night. Y'all go 4-on-1 on me. I will defend Roman all night long.
Honestly, I don't even know if the belt has done much for Roman. It's just this whole story, his whole attitude is what's making this run.
No, I mean, to me, the belt, it's not the belt that's making Roman. It's the whole, if you're the tribal chief, if you're the head of the table, you got to have the belt. You can't call yourself that and not be at the top of the mountain.
If anything, it's this story that's bringing something back to the WWE title. It's making it more meaningful. The fact that somebody's holding it for so long again.
I mean, it's
almost become like the Undertaker streak, man. Like it's not on that level, but that's the biggest single push in wrestling right now is going to be whoever takes those belts from Roman.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with like, I'm with like, I just want to make clear, like, I'm not saying a person like the belt is making these people like how Jordan said, you know, characters make the guys, not the belts. 100% agree. Like you've got to get that character before you get that belt. I just think a lot of times if you're that big, most of the time, if you're that charismatic, if the company sees the popularity in you, the crossover appeal in you, the company's going to put the belt on you at some point.
Yeah, they typically go hand in hand.
They just go hand in hand. It's not that like these belts are making them the star. I think the belt just typically comes with someone who comes with the
territory.
Yeah, perfectly said.
I don't disagree with that. It's just I still think you can make it without having the title. I mean, Jake the Snake was one of the biggest wrestlers of the 80s and 90s. Like, dude, he never held the title. I mean, he was still a big star even without it. So, and another guy that I was thinking of too is Mick Foley. Like, he was a star. Everybody knew who he was before he even got the title. Like, and that's another guy did not need the title to be what he was. Like, everybody was going to love the dude, whether he was champion or not. So.
And honestly, with Mick Foley, like when you think of Mick Foley and how big of a star he is to the business, I don't think champion. I think the thing that makes him a star is the hardcore, the Hell in a Cell moment. It's those moments that make him that transcendent star.
Yeah, him winning the belt was cool, but that you're right. Everything else was what you remember.
And we've seen them try and fail to use the belt to make somebody. Look at Jinder Mahal back in 2017. You take a guy who's been low on the card, you know, you put some gas on him for a month and throw the belt on him, and it just didn't stick. You know, nobody really bought it. I mean, there were some cool moments. I give Jinder his credit. He played a good heel, but once the title reign was over, he went right back to where he was on the card. He went right back to being at the bottom. To a similar extent, I'd say the same thing with Kofi and Big E, right? It was really cool moment seeing those guys win the belt, but it didn't elevate them. The moment they lost the belts, they went right back to just being on the New Day and a tag team. There was no character development. There was no permanent elevation on the card for those guys. So, yeah, I don't think the belt makes the guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think you have to have that intangible to run with it after you get that belt. Like, and very few people take it to that next level. You know, like you're given the belt and you have to do something with it. And the guys that can take that belt and become bigger with it, I think those are the guys that are, you know, those Mount Rushmore guys we talk about.
Hell yeah.
All right. Anybody have any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
No.
All right. All right. We'll move on to the next topic. Second topic of the evening. If you could fantasy book a wrestler jumping from one company to another, who would you pick?
Oh, this is a good one. I want to kick this off just in case someone has this. I want to get mine in first. I would book, and this isn't who we think it should be. It's just like our dream scenario, right? Just like who you would.
Yeah. Who would you? Yeah.
Taking, I don't know his contract situation. I don't know any of that. I don't know if this is possible with the time frame, but if I could pick anyone to jump ship, say in the next year, Seth Rollins to AEW. you have him jump ship while Punk is the champion. There was always that little bit of rumors that they had heat because Punk wouldn't train Tyler Black, aka Seth Rollins, at the ROH dojo because of he couldn't make the payments as this young, struggling 18-year-old independent wrestler. Bring that up into reality, but don't have him just show up like a typical Dynamite debut. Have Punk on this run, have vignettes play where it's like someone from Punk's past is coming to they have a bone to pick with Punk and we don't know who it is, and that you play up the mystery man element all of a sudden at a big pay-per-view. The equivalent of like a Y2J clock counts down or whatever you would do, comes out, lights go out, guy comes out in a hood, pulls it off. You get the classic Seth Rollins laugh, maniacal laugh. And we play up on that ROH history, the young 18-year-old young gun ROH kid coming to take the old man who never gave him his due. Tyler Black is back. I would love that.
That'd be awesome, man. Yeah, perfect booking. My only question, dude, I wonder what they do with the name, man. I wonder if they would just try to buy out the Seth Rollins name, because I feel like Tyler, they already got, Malachi Black's kind of got that corner on lockdown, man.
That is true. That is true.
So yeah, I mean, obviously that ain't the end of the world. You could still have him be there as Tyler Black, but that would be awesome, man, to see Seth go over. I was gonna say, I've been hyping this guy up for years on the Chick Foley show. He finally went down to NXT and did his thing. I think if he went to AEW, he would be just as successful. Dolph Ziggler, man. I love Dolph. I feel like he's criminally underrated. A lot of people throw out Cesaro for like the most underrated guy this generation. I don't think so, though, because Cesaro was a really badass wrestler, but I never thought he really had the charisma to be a main eventer. I feel like Dolph is the man. He can wrestle. He could be an awesome face, awesome heel. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because he had those concussion issues whenever they tried to put the world championship on him and Vince just soured on him. But I feel like Dolph has never really been used to his full potential over the last 6 or 7 years.
Was Dolph?
Absolutely.
We've been beating that drum, Seth, me and Sneed, for a long time too. Like,
Love Dolph,
how
man.
do you? He's like a Shawn Michaels. I'm not saying he's HBK, but like he is of that ilk.
Yeah, I always say he's a hybrid of Shawn Michaels and Mr. Perfect, man. That's the
100%. Yeah, that's perfect.
Has he ever done indies, or was he a WWE product from the very?
I think he was straight up OVW. He went straight from Kent State, got brought into OVW, and I think he's a WWE product through and through. And I know they're paying him really well. I want to say, he was kind of jokingly talking shit about it last time he got signed. I know he's getting over $1 million a year from WWE, and he's not working a heavy schedule. So I think he's kind of content to just be in that spot, and whatever fire he had to, be a WrestleMania main eventer, I think that got extinguished a long time ago. But I think Dolph is the man.
I think the last time, I don't know what show recently we've talked about him, because I remember us talking about how I wonder if you can blame the company for Dolph not getting that push at this point, or it does seem to me like Dolph, it's not like Dolph is super ambitious at this point in his career. Like he
doesn't strike me as the type to be like knocking on Vince's door or whoever's door it is you need to be knocking on to get that push. I think he's, pin me, pay me, and let me go do my stand up after the shows.
Yep.
Exactly. That's exactly where he is. He's happy with what he's doing, making his money.
It's more power to him, but as a fan, I just want to see him do more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know he has the potential to do so much more.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw mine out there too. And I got a little tight over here because I was like, oh man, here we go. But mine does involve Punk in AEW, but I would bring over a super heel Kevin Owens. They never, and they could do the whole reality and wrestling. They never really crossed paths. They kind of missed each other.
Kevin Steen,
bring over Kevin Steen, and then I know you could bring the reality up because I know they had a confrontation over. I think it was Punk had a confrontation with him over wearing a wrestling shirt or something. But they could really play that up in their style. I think they would just have amazing back and forth.
Yeah, that I feel like that was where my mind, when you guys brought this topic up, my mind goes to like, okay, how could we bring in some reality in this
Yeah.
debut, like in this jump? That's always the best, is when you pull in the like past histories of wrestlers. And
Wow, that's I was thinking Owens too, but I was trying to go the other way. Like I wanted to pick somebody from AEW to WWE, but there's nobody that's exciting enough that's going to make a difference for me in the WWE product. So I'm going to say I want to see Roman Reigns go to AEW. Man, I would love to see him get a match with Omega.
That'd be awesome.
dream match.
Yeah.
And that is what I would clamor for. That would be let the head of the table walk in there. And I think it would be a lot of fun. I'd love to see the promos going back and forth. Omega could poke fun at him being in WWE. You have Callis and Heyman, if he could bring Heyman with him. Oh, can you imagine Heyman and Callis going at it on the mics, and Heyman unscripted, where he could just say wherever the hell he wants to say?
That's all you had to say. Like throw Reigns and Omega out the window. Just have Callis and Heyman. Come on. I'm there.
100%.
I might change mine to that.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty damn cool.
So
Joe Fika is all elite.
So I knew someone was going to take Rollins, because that when I thought of this question,
You knew who it was.
that was literally like the first person I thought of, like him in AEW. But my answer is never going to change on this. I've wanted this guy to get called up to either WWE or AEW for the longest time. My choice is Moose. It will always be Moose. The dude looks like $1 million. I don't know what it is, if like he's like an asshole or something, but dude, I just don't get it. Like, the dude can go. He's gotten so much better in the last 2 years in the ring. I mean, I don't know how much Impact you guys watch, but
yeah,
anytime you watch him, like, dude, he's just so impressive. I mean, the dude used to be a former offensive lineman. The dude's doing Spanish flies off the top rope. Like,
yeah.
I just, and I, like I said, I don't care where they put him, whether I feel like his style is more suited for WWE, because they can give you more of like the presentation for him and stuff like that. Definitely an NXT guy at the start. But dude, the dude is just a star, and he's stuck in Impact doing nothing really. I mean,
we had him on the show. He was nice to us.
yeah, he was cool.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. He's hit another gear. And I think around the time of Omega's Impact title run, like when he had that match against Omega, I think that opened a lot of eyes. Like, hey, this guy isn't just a big body guy. Like, he can go in the ring.
Yeah, for as big as he is, like, there's a lot of stuff he should not be able to do. And yeah, I've just always, me and Seth have talked about this numerous times, but I've always wanted to see him on the big stage. I feel like he's made for it, and I feel like he'd be ready for it. So,
and if you brought him in, like if the machine, the WWE machine, really got behind him, him against Roman, I would be, if you built him up in that company to seem like a big deal, he would be a big deal for sure.
I wouldn't mind seeing Brock go down to AEW as well, just to get his hands on CM Punk one more time and just beat the Kentucky Fried fuck out of him, man.
Now, I know everybody, like, since we're just fantasy booking here, I think there's a lot of people who have kind of like settled into Bray just needs to go back to WWE. Like, that's where he fits. That's
go home, Bray.
Yeah, just go home. But what would I'm not one of those people advocating for him to come to AEW right now. I don't think there's room for him. But what would a perfectly booked situation be like for Bray if he were to come to an AEW? What do you got, Jordan? What do you think? Because you're a massive Bray fan.
He doesn't need the title, so I don't really think it's would be a mistake bringing him in. I feel like booking him with the Dark Order is the easy thing, but I think that's all. It's just a great idea. I mean, the Dark Order definitely has enough guys that can go in it. Like I said, I don't feel like Bray has to go for the title for him to have a successful run anywhere. I just feel like they need. I mean, look how well they haven't booked him well enough, but the House of Black is over. Like, the presentation to it, it's over. So obviously we can handle someone like that. I just feel like AEW would be a good landing spot for him because there's so many guys for him to wrestle there. Having said that, I do think WWE is the best spot for him.
I think he's already signed with them. I think he's quietly re-signed with them, and I think it's just a matter of time before he comes back to WWE.
Maybe SummerSlam or something pop up.
Yeah.
Like Jordan said, I feel like if he did come to AEW, I think he just needs to be Wyndham Rotunda and just go out and be a badass Southern wrestler. You know what I mean? Still cut the promos and stuff, be that silver tongued devil like he was, but leave the supernatural stuff behind and maybe kind of slowly work that in, because House of Blacks, they got that corner on lockdown right now. They're doing such a good job working in that kind of that lane for pro wrestling that Bray Wyatt's kind of built, that I just don't think there's room for another guy like that in AEW right now.
Dream match scenario will never happen, but can you imagine House of Black versus the original Wyatt family?
Wow.
I mean, they could still do a Wyatt family thing. They could bring in Braun and Luke Harper. Or not Luke Harper, but Eric Rowan.
Yeah.
You know what I meant. Relax.
Cody Khan's bringing him back from the dead.
Supernatural.
So here's my question. If you guys had to pick an AEW guy to jump to WWE that you think would work in WWE, who would it be? Is there anyone?
Mox. I feel like Mox coming back as a House of Fire babyface would just be incredible. I know it's kind of a cheat since we've already seen him work in WWE, but I feel like if you know how much Mox loves the business, he's got to feel like he's got some loose ends to tie up in WWE. You can't tell me he doesn't got an eye on what's been happening with Cody, the job they've done booking Cody and making Cody seem like the biggest deal in wrestling since he's come back. So I wouldn't close the door on Mox coming back to WWE.
Talk about a credible opponent for Roman.
Oh my God.
God.
Back built up. Oh.
Man, like that would be a true, like, even more so than Cody to me. Like if Mox would come back and challenge Roman, that is a WrestleMania who is going to win type of match.
Imagine if, just imagine, let's say Cody has a setback in his recovery. They find a way to get Mox surprise entrant in the Rumble. He wins. Maybe you have Seth Rollins win Elimination Chamber. Next thing you know, you got Mox, Rollins, and Reigns in the Mania. I mean, that will sell out a stadium quick if they can't get The Rock to show up.
Man, that would be huge.
Did he ever go up against Reigns after the Shield split? They always stood friendly, right?
Match at Survivor Series 2015, after Rollins forfeited the belt, it was Reigns and Ambrose in the finals of that tournament to crown a new champ. But it was like a 9-minute match, never really got out of second gear, and it was like your typical tournament match. You know what I mean? They never had like an epic, like, let's build to something and do something they should have had.
And you know how close those two guys are too in real life. It would be amazing.
Yeah. That would be great. Just real with the Bray thing, I think the perfect scenario, I said this like a long time ago, they would never do it, but instead of just bringing Bray into AEW as just kind of, another heel or another baby face, like with this whole Forbidden Door thing, if you really wanted to book him like a monster, if he became like the big bad of the Forbidden Door, where he could float between New Japan, he could float between Impact, he could float between AEW, show up whenever he wanted, and he was like the kind of like the super heel. Like you have the MJFs, all these heels that are specific to their companies, but he's the guy that all of these companies fear. I would love that.
That'd be fun.
That'd be awesome. Imagine if they did if he did it between three companies too, and they did like the three faces of Wyatt. Like he was like the Fiend like in Impact, and then when he was on AEW, he's just Bray. Like, dude, it
could be a lot of fun. Something different, where it's not just a wrestler debuting in another company. Like try and really do something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like the next big person that comes over to AEW, dude, they have to make it bigger than just them trotting them out on Dynamite. It has to mean something, because I feel like we're just getting into like a trend of everybody just comes out. You're like, oh, good, this guy's here now, but then 3 weeks later, it's like they've done nothing with him in 3 weeks. Like
100%, Jordan, 100%.
No, I think the way you booked it with Rollins doing
we've said how they'll just say, hey, we've got a new signee, and they trot him out to the top of the ramp. It's like, I miss the days when, Jericho, when we had that clock and you're like, who is this? At the vignettes of like, who is coming? The last time I remember them really doing this in AEW, where they really built it, was when they were building the Exalted one. and everyone was they give us these vignettes talking about it, and everyone was, is it Brody, is it Matt Hardy? And there was a lot of like playing with the fans' emotions of who is it, who's it going to be. I love the mystery vignettes where it gets you thinking like, who is arriving, who is this? They need to do that more. Every company needs to do that more, even WWE. Like, play with it.
Yeah, give me that.
So you were a big fan back in the day when they had nails in the jailhouse.
Fuck yes, I love nails, dude.
Man.
I love that. Love that stuff.
What about Blood Runs Cold when they did Glacier vignettes for 18 months?
Yeah.
I still thought that's who was coming back at Winter is Coming when Sting came out. I had it on mute. We were about to record a podcast, and we're talking to Sheena like, "Oh shit, Glacier's about to come back."
The snow starts coming down.
Yeah, like why the fuck does Sting have snow powers now? Like, where did that come from?
Exactly.
Well, Glacier's heavily involved with Nightmare Factory, right?
Yeah, him and Cody are tight. Yeah,
not out of the realm of possibility.
It's one of those
Let's
things
get
like
Glacier back.
We're older now. You look back at the nails angle, and I think we had a topic at one point like, what's the worst wrestler with the best gimmick?
Yeah,
and my
up there.
my pick was Nails, man.
Nails should have been a
Terrible
babyface. Why was Nails getting booed, man? Everybody knows, police brutality. Nails would be the biggest babyface in the biz if he came out nowadays, man.
He totally would.
Man, shit would have changed if he was here these days. I never
You'd
even
have
thought
fucking
of
Antifa
that.
rooting for him in the stands and everything.
Cobb County, man. Cobb County, Georgia.
And Bossman ended up proving himself to be like one of the biggest dickheads in kayfabe there is, man. Freaking killed Al Snow's dog. Freaking, he drugged the Big Show's daddy who's coughing around. Like, dude, Nails was right, man. We need to get some revisionist history going, dude. Nails was trying to tell us for years, man.
I feel like that gets brought up almost every show.
That's one of my favorite
The Big
segments
Show.
in wrestling history is Big Show's dad's coffin.
Big Show's daddy.
It's
Oh, daddy.
Mattel's been releasing the vehicles the last couple of years. They did the ambulance for Braun Strowman. They did the Corvette for Brock, and they did Big E's ATV. We need to get Big Show's daddy's hearse.
A hearse with a attachable coffin behind it.
Yeah, come with a Big Show and Big Boss Man figure.
Boss man.
Oh,
What do you want for dinner? Pepper steak?
Oh, I love that.
all right. Are you guys ready to move on to our final topic?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Final topic of the evening. Buy or sell on the All Atlantic title.
All right. First thing I'm going to say
Yeah,
is
you take it, Tom.
you got to sell the name, because how is Japan involved with a title that's called All
Get the words out of my mouth. I don't got an issue with another title, but just the overall concept. Why is it called All Atlantic, and then you got countries from the Pacific on the belt?
That's
Is that what we're? I mean,
It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's like the Universal title. I mean, I get it, WWE Universe, but are we?
I mean,
defending
that
this
one's lame
thing?
too. I agree. I don't like the concept of that one either. I'm all for. I mean, I'm a sucker for a belt, man, and the belt does look beautiful. I just don't get the name of it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I get the all part of it, like All Elite. I get that they're doing that. I get that they want like that intercontinental Atlantic type of like international flavor to it, but it is weird that. But you couldn't have called it Pacific either. The All
No, you
Pacific.
couldn't call it Pacific.
I think they should have called it Intercontinental. That's a known. I'm sure they didn't want to get too much in WWE's Wheaties, but that's like a known thing in wrestling. Intercontinental Championship,
Right.
Because
I don't know.
Japan has one, right? An intercontinental title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Listen,
Yeah,
I'm just.
Other than
I'm
that, though, I'm cool with the concept of it. It looks like we got some kick-ass guys competing for it. So, it's immediately going to have some credibility regardless of who comes out of that tournament with the belt. But I just don't really, honestly, the name. That's the only thing I don't like. I don't like the name All Atlantic Championship. Other than that, I'm buying it.
Here's the thing that's worrisome to me is I go back to that quote, and I saved the quote today from Tony Khan and what he said a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to bring it up. So it's not.
Hold on, Tom. Before you do the quote, I want you to come with this because you were hot about this title.
Oh yeah, keep that energy, Tom.
Because I want to have it here what we're talking about.
There. So this is what Tony Khan said a couple of weeks ago. I do have more championship belts in my possession that have never been unveiled than anybody might suspect. So the thing that's scares me is it's not just this one title. We know there's a trios titles coming.
That's what I was hoping they were going to announce.
And there's a division that's been built for the trios title now. We see a lot of trios teams, so I'm okay with that. I just don't want to start seeing where there are so many belts that a pay-per-view is going to have more title matches than non.
I think there's 50 belts, man.
There's 6 belts.
Yeah, and we have one new one coming, and then we know trios are coming, and we just had the TBS one added in January.
Yeah, and in Tom's defense, they like to parade out all those Ring of Honor championships on our AEW programming.
Not AEW.
That America's Top Team match at the last pay-per-view, they were coming out with belts I never even fucking seen before, man.
Yeah.
Literally, seemed like, and they got that. It just seems like they're belt happy. You had that one Heart belts too, even though those aren't championships. I just feel like Tony Khan's want to put a belt on every single wrestler coming out.
So, like, if this is going to be the last men's title, then maybe, like, they still have to prove it to me. I want to see how it's booked. I love the matches for the qualifying matches. Like, you can't argue those are 4 fire matches, and the match at Forbidden Door is going to be awesome. But, like, from the get-go, I'm not for another men's belt. It's part of the reason why I love AEW is there were so many friggin' belts in WWE. Like, I grew up back in the 80s when WWE was the WWF Championship and Intercontinental Championship. Like, I love having less belts because I can remember who held the belt, who beat who, and I remember that right now in AEW. Now you start throwing another belt in there, it's going to start be confused. Like, it's going to, I just hope it doesn't.
Yeah, but just because we can't remember everything about every belt doesn't take away credibility to a belt.
Well, I want to see how it's booked. I see what they're doing so far, and I like it. I read some of Tony Khan's comments today. So, like, they could very easily win me over, but from the get-go, I'm sell. But I'm not closed-minded to it. Let them sell me on it.
Well, you sounded closed-minded the other night.
I did not want it to. I mean,
he went hard. He was like,
I still would prefer they didn't have it, but, like, they haven't let me down with what they've done yet. So I want them to prove it to me.
I was disappointed just because when they started keying that up, I just knew they were about to announce the trios belt. And I love a 6-man tag team championship. So I was a little bit bummed at seeing this one. But like Tom said, I'll give it time.
What do you think, Jordan?
I think the belt itself is really cool. The name is dog shit, though. AEW has, I know the TNT title is supposed to be technically like their mid-card title, but I mean, does anyone really consider it that? Like, it's just
stock. It's like crypto, man. Its stock has been dropping like all 2022.
Yeah. So they need an actual mid-card belt. So Tom's not the only one that said he didn't want more belts. I get it. Dude, but these are the same people that are bitching that the roster's bloated.
Exactly.
Like, okay, so we got 6 legitimate people that are going to go for the actual AEW title, probably. 6 at most. What the hell are the rest of the guys going for? Just going out there to win and lose matches? Like, they got to have something to go after. So I like it for that reason, because they do have a lot of mid-card wrestlers that are never going to get the main title. We know that. And I mean, that's part of the reason why everybody's clamoring for WWE to use the U.S. title and Intercontinental title more, is because you need mid-card titles. They're important to the show. Shit, I think they're just as important as the main title because it gives the rest of the guys something to do.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with it at all. As much programming as they've got, I mean, you've got AEW Dark, which that's 2 hours every week, and I'd be fine with them putting the belt on that show every once in a while. Like, I'm not opposed to seeing that. It might give me a reason to watch it.
Right.
Because they're putting good people on it. I just don't have time to watch it, or there's nothing I don't think that's worth it for me. So, no, I don't have a problem with it at all.
I wish they would have done a division for, like, Lee Moriarty, Dante Martin, and have these young guys fighting for something to give them more.
They can be a part of this division. That's what I like about. I don't necessarily like titles when they kind of go the route of boxing or UFC where you have, cruiserweights. Like, you have to be in this certain weight limit.
Lance Archer's not going for a cruiserweight.
Right.
But Dante Martin can go for All Atlantic.
I like All Atlantic because you could get Malachi Black, Lance Archer, or a Dante Martin, or some of the littler guys. I wonder. I think the TNT title has like a good historical lineage with Brody Lee being tied into it. I think it'll always kind of have a place there. I do always look at that belt as a TV title. And if we're going with like NWA history and Tony's love of that type of booking, like I would like if the TNT belt was a TV only title.
Yeah.
And then the All Atlantic title kind of became your Intercontinental title, kind of became your premier mid-card title that would be on pay-per-view events and things like that. And the TNT title could have, if you've got a really hot blood feud going on, you could put that on a pay-per-view as well. But I like the TNT title being predominantly a television title. There's a part of me though, like going outside of just inside the ropes, kayfabe and all of that. I wonder if the creation of the All Atlantic title is a kind of a safety net for Tony Khan. If they were to ever move away from Warner, they could do away with the TNT title and still have a mid-card title and it not have to rename it. They could just kind of like push
do
it
a quick unification or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're doing so before I get it, I'm buying. I'm all in on the title. I think it's great. But I think this is something too for when they go international, because they're going international. They have plans to go international. I think this is going to be big when they go overseas. This is going to be a big title. It might be bigger than the world title when they go overseas.
But why would it be bigger than a world title? It's the world championship to be defended all over the world.
Yeah, but because that country's guy can be going for that title.
Yeah, think of what was it? I think Insurrection in 1997. The Bulldog, Brett and Undertaker were in the mid card. Bulldog and Shawn main evented for the European title. They're in the UK. Yeah. See that.
So I have a question for you guys, because growing up in the WWE bubble, explain exactly what a TV title is to me. Is it just solely defended on television?
So the big thing with the OG TV title back in WCW was typically on WCW Saturday night, and the big catch on it was that it's a 15-minute time limit because it's designed to be on one TV segment. So that was the original idea behind a TV title. This is going to be a match that you saw on an episode of TV. It wasn't going to be an hour-long Broadway or anything like that. It was basically a short match made for TV, because back in the day, like the live shows, the main event would typically go like 40 minutes plus every night and stuff. So that was how it originally started out. And then it ended up kind of just being like the mid card to lower mid card title after a while. But originally it was all about having that 15-minute time limit on the matches.
Yeah. Like Arn, and it became known, like Arn was the TV guy who he would be defending that belt every week. Like if you were the TV champion, you were defending every week you had a match.
That makes sense. Okay.
Aesthetically, that's my favorite belt of all time too. So
yeah, I love that belt with the old, have like the ABC and like the CBS logo and stuff on. It's beautiful. Yeah, I would love to see that too. And hopefully, like that's kind of the feel they were giving it. I hope this turns into like a worker's belt, and you could do something like every single week, have an open challenge for it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like let that be if there's nothing else going on Rampage, let's throw an All Atlantic Championship match on there. And let this thing kind of just, you can have it move around a little bit more than some of the other belts and stuff, and just give us some really good matches.
So do you guys think that with the whole issue of too many titles, do you think that it is the belt, too many belts waters it down? Or do you think it's the way they utilize the belts waters it down? Like what is the problem with having too many belts? Because I'm with you guys with WWE. I think there are belts there that shouldn't be there. Like to me, the women's tag titles are useless because you don't have the division to support the titles. So do you think it's just the fact that so many titles water down other titles, or do you think it's the bad booking or the lack of roster that water down titles?
I don't think AEW is at the point yet with too many titles, but if they keep coming, it's like less means more. Like if Christmas was every 3 months, it wouldn't mean as much. So if you have every match on a pay-per-view being a title match, it wouldn't mean as much. That's why I don't want, I just don't want to see him keep adding titles every 6 months for the foreseeable future. He's got to stop.
But what if they're booking every title match like it means something? If you have the roster to support it.
So I give AEW the benefit of the doubt because they've shown the ability to tell compelling stories that don't involve the title. last pay-per-view, MJF and Wardlow was probably the most interesting storyline going into it. Pay-per-view before that, it was MJF and CM Punk. I think we're basing a lot of this off of what WWE has done, where the title becomes a crutch for creative, where the only stories they want to tell is this person wants the championship or this person lost the championship and they want it back. If that's the only stories you're telling, it gets repetitive. AEW hasn't shown us that's something they're going to do, but they've kind of set the conditions with all these belts. If you're going to give love to all these belts, it could be difficult coming up with interesting stories, A, for all the titles that you have, and B, for all the additional stories that are taking place away from the championship. So I think this is WWE induced anxiety for AEW fans seeing all these belts roll out.
That's gonna be it.
Ace calls it Fed brain. You've got that Fed brain.
Yeah, I feel opposite. I feel like the reason I love AEW so much is I escaped WWE, and the less titles meant more. You know
I just don't think it's the number of titles.
Yeah,
That's my.
either.
It's how the titles are used. WWE doesn't use titles. They've got the United States title, who, for fans of just the Fed, they see that as a throwaway title. Me, I'm thinking of Rick Rude holding that belt in '92. Man, the United States title at a certain time was a prestigious fucking title. Man,
Yeah.
I think that's actually got like the oldest lineage going back of all the championships right now. I think because some of the other lineages have died off.
Right.
That U.S. title, that belt that's around the waist of who even has the belt right now?
I have no idea.
Theory.
Yeah, Theory. Yeah, that belt that Austin
Oh,
Theory's
boy.
got right now, that's the same belt that, Piper and Greg Valentine were fighting over, Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard. That's that same title that goes all the way back. So, yeah, that's a great point that championship should be so elevated so much higher than it is. It hasn't really been in a spot like that since John Cena had it back in 2015.
It's the same thing the way they've ruined the Intercontinental title. And I will give AEW credit here. Having Wardlow come out and cut that promo last week felt like, hey, they admitted we screwed up with this TNT title and what's happened for the last 6 months. And now I'm looking forward to seeing them fix it. And I'm pretty sure Wardlow's going to wind up winning the TNT title.
Here's what I think. I think you can go over to prowrestlingtees.com/tavern and get a shirt that says blame booking, not belts. I think the t-shirt's up over there. So
I think AEW can get more belts because they have shown us that they know how to book belts right. If you're just introducing belts to play musical chairs with it every month, then I don't want it. But if you're doing long storylines with it and building actual challengers for the belt and making the champ look strong, then I'm all for it. But I don't want a belt that comes in, because that's what the TNT title is turning into. It's turning into, all right, he wins it this week, 2 weeks later he loses it. Like, that's not what I want, because that's why I like AEW so much, because you do get a meaningful title reign. Like, It's not just, hey, Hangman just won the title, next month we're taking it off of him. That's what I like about AEW, and I think that's what sets it apart, and I think that's why we all have hope for it.
I'm with you 100%, Jordan. I will defend. I will give them a mulligan on the TNT title. I think a lot of people are shitting on the way that belt, like, it's been disgraced. I don't think that was by long-term booking plans. I think that was a perfect storm of Cody had that belt, then they find out he's on his way out. They have Sammy holding that belt, and then they put him with Ty thinking this is going to be this babyface situation. Then the crowd turns on him. So I think it was a perfect storm of, like, the crowd dictating babyface. They were trying to move with that belt in ways and autocorrect mistakes that were brought on from outside situations, like Cody leaving for WWE, the Ty Conti, Sammy union blowing up in their face, Dan Lambert you had this hardcore heel going against Sammy, and then Sammy's a hardcore heel. So it was like there was a lot of confusion in that. I think now that shit is kind of out of the way, Sammy, Ty, Scorpio, I think they're going to right the wrongs.
I agree there. Let me ask you guys this, though. So we get this belt. In 6 months, we get the Trios belt. Don't you want to see them slow down after that, adding belts?
If they get the Trios, I'm happy. But, I mean, if the belts are cool, I'll give it a shot. Because if nothing else, it'll be something cool to put on my figures.
The Trios titles I'm here for.
Yeah.
One last thing
about division. Like, a year ago, I didn't want the Trios title. Now I'm like, they have the division for it. Bring it on. I have zero problem with it anymore.
One last thing about the TNT title. The other problem with that belt is Brody was supposed to go on a long run with that belt, and we obviously all know what happened.
Yeah.
So there's kind of been a dark cloud over that belt since that, I feel like.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll put it on Wardlow and he'll get a nice long run and we'll all forget that stuff ever happened. But
I think that's the plan with Wardlow. I think if he gets that belt, he's going to hold it for a long time.
They've been playing hot potato with it for a while. They need someone to really own that belt for a while.
Hey, going back, you guys were talking about all the nonsense with Sammy and Ty Conti. I was telling Sheena, I think if Sammy's original fiance Pam would come back in like Marty Jannetty on Shawn Michaels style, I think she would be the biggest baby face in the biz, man. I don't know how you need to frame it, kayfabe wise, but the AEW fans are smart enough that they're going to remember that very public engagement that they had.
Yes.
If you guys remember when Marty came back, Sherry's holding up the mirror and then Marty just pops up behind him, and Marty's so fired up, man. Like that's one of my babyface moments, dude. That crowd was so behind Marty Jannetty right then.
Oh, dude, have Sammy in a feud with like a Dante Martin, and then you have Pam in Dante Martin's corner. Boom.
Oh my God, the heat would be nuclear, man.
That'd be great,
dude. That would be
blow the roof off the place.
All right, anybody have anything to say before we wrap up?
Just thanks again for having us. Remember, follow Chick Foley at Chick Foley. Follow Jordan at The Fig God. Make sure you subscribe to the Chick Foley Show wherever you find podcasts. My social media is kayfabe. I have like a laced up job where I got to nobody. This whole podcast thing is like a secret life for me. That's why I don't put my stuff out. But no, thanks for all the support for the Pod Warriors and the overall the Chick Foley family.
We're gonna turn out some Pod Warriors episodes, guys. We're gonna turn some out, so get ready. We're gonna burn some out for you guys.
I'm excited.
Chad, you got a round robin?
Yeah, I got a quick round robin at the end just before we get out. Quick multiple choice question. At the next WrestleMania, Roman Reigns will defend the belt against A, Cody Rhodes, B, The Rock, or C, a mystery opponent, not of those two.
Hey, Cody Rhodes.
Hey, Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I say Cody. Rock's making too much money, man. I know everybody talks about his schedule being clear now, but something's going to come up.
I think Cody.
I'm going to be the odd man out and say The Rock.
I'll be there for it.
I feel like you have to. This head of the table thing, tribal chief, sometime, someplace, we got to get that Rock Roman match.
So I didn't want to be that guy. We have 2 nights of Mania now. They could do both matches. I was talking. This is my fantasy booking ending, dude. Roman and Cody, night 1. Okay, the Usos are about to come out and do the bloodline thing and screw over Cody. Rock saves the day, and somehow Roman's distracted. Cody beats him. Cody takes 1 belt, and then you still have Roman go over the Rock the next night. So Cody gets his moment, and then the Rock gets his moment, or Roman gets his moment beating the Rock.
Man, talk about solidifying your run. Have a double
main event both nights, sold out in LA. That if they could swing it, that would be huge. And I think that would give him so many outs, because you could have Roman, you could split the belts. Roman would still come out of that weekend looking very strong, because Cody's win could be a little bit fluky or whatever. But I think if they can work it out, that would be the best case scenario for everybody.
That's awesome.
I know Vince is probably tied up with a lot of stuff today, but I think he needs to hear that.
Yeah.
Tied up, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it.
Maybe some furry handcuffs involved.
Yeah. You don't know how he's tied up, but I bet he is. So. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap us up. Oh boy. That's Tom's button.
Bullshit artist.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for this edition of the Turnbuckle Debate. Make sure you guys are following the Chick Foley Show, the Pod Warriors, everywhere you can find them. Tom, we got a couple seconds. Get your shit in.
Guys, Fig Night, now the official Fig Show of the Wrestle and Figure news source. Make sure to check us out Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, in the OG Fig Kid Twitter and Instagram.
Well, he had that one planned, didn't he?
Oh,
that was locked and loaded, man.
Well played, Tom.
I just made it up, actually.
Is dismissed.